Welcome to the Voice of Putnam County Business. This is the podcast of the Putnam County Business Council, where we will be discussing all things related to Putnam County business climate and economic development in the county. We have Nick DeAndrea, General Manager of Park Ford. He is a director of the Putnam County Business Council, and also Nat Prentice of Prentice Investment Management, LLC. Nat is also the president of the Putnam County Business Council and also president of the Cold Spring Chamber of Commerce. We will welcome our host right after a brief message from our sponsor.
When Country Willow Furniture found people staying at home instead of furnishing their homes during the pandemic, the store worried about the loans that fueled their dramatic growth. But Tompkins Bank knew that solid relationships, like solid furniture, last far into the future. The value of a bank in your corner, the values of a bygone era. Tompkins gives you both, and the best banking relationship you'll ever have. Tompkins, your bank of choice. Find out more at tompkinsbank.com.
And we're back on the Voice of Putnam County Business. Nick here again with my good buddy Nat. How you doing, Nat?
Doing just fine there. Nice seeing you again. It's been a while.
It has.
Very happy to be reunited with you. You bring out the best in people.
Man, today I'm excited. Nat, I'm introducing you to a good friend of mine, Dave Gallo, the owner of My Cousins in Mahopac on Route 6. Dave, thanks for joining us today, man.
Thanks for having me, guys. Nice to see you.
Yeah, this is great. Dave is another Yorktown High School alum, which we've had previously on the show as well. So we're kind of taking over the Putnam County, I think, a little bit. So Dave's been in the restaurant industry for quite some time, right, Dave?
Yeah, forever. I mean, I've been running away from the business my whole life. My grandmother was a waitress for 50 years. My aunt was a waitress for 50 years. We've always kind of had hosting in the family. I got my first food job working Yorktown Pizza and Pasta.
Oh man.
Washing dishes. Then I became a cook. Then I was a delivery boy and a server. And then, as time moved on in college, quick stint at Hooters. Really wasn't for me.
Oh no, it wouldn't be for you, Dave.
No, I didn't look that great in the shorts. But I've been in a bunch of kitchens and I've worked at a bunch of restaurants and behind a bunch of bars, and the service industry has always really called me, and I kind of did some marketing and sales in between, but it always kind of brought me back into it. And when I had an opportunity to do my own thing, I jumped at it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you have some long-term experience in Mahopac.
Yeah. So I had a restaurant. It was the Chop House Grill.
I'm from the other side.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to help me with the history.
So I helped these two guys open up this restaurant back in 2012. I ended up buying out one of the partners. We, to rave reviews. It was great while we had it. Series of different circumstances. I ended up leaving in 2015. Went down to the city, worked for Lydia Bastianich at Del Posto, all to make my way back up and open up a place right across the street.
Literally right across the street.
The availability, which surprised you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You were driving by, or
Yeah,
how
literally.
did it happen that you discovered that the building was going to be yours?
I had seen that there wasn't very much action there, and a friend of mine told me that it was available.
What was it before? It was
Ramiro's, yeah. It was like
it was a restaurant.
a Latin bistro, yeah.
I see.
And then before that, somebody told me it was a chiropractic office. And I think it was a bakery before that. I think it's had a lot of iterations over time, but I'm glad it was a restaurant before me, because this is a turnkey as turnkey gets, I guess. I mean, there were a number of things that had to be done and equipment purchased and stuff like that, but tables and chairs was helpful.
Yeah, so that's certainly helpful. What was it? Were you ready to start another restaurant, or were you just saying this kind of hit me at once and it's here, it's available, let's just go for it?
So I moved to Denver February 2020. A buddy of mine had always kind of told me to come out. The city's great. I was thinking about actually opening up a place out there. And then, as we all know, the world ended in March 2020. So I was out there for about 6 months, living with a buddy of mine, and for the sake of our friendship and his relationship, I left. So I moved back home to Heritage Hills with mom and dad. And when the pandemic first happened, I was like, I'm never going to open up a restaurant again. And, but over time, you saw that, people were getting a little stir crazy, and, there was desire to be back out and with people in public in a common space. So when I was living with my parents, I drew up a business plan as soon as I found out the place was available. Looked at it, came to an understanding with the landlord. Took about 3 weeks to raise the money that I needed to open it. And then, we hit the ground running.
That's a quick turnaround.
Yeah, it was.
A quick turn. I mean, doesn't it take a year to bring the money together?
So, I mean, thankfully, I have some people in my life who wanted to support me and back me. My parents told me no. But my friends and people who, saw what I had done in the past along the way, wanted to support me. And I thought that I had put a reasonable proposal together for it to be worthwhile for everybody.
And you, I mean, thankfully you have the experience, especially in this area, because it's not easy to run a restaurant.
No,
It's not. And you go through a lot, and starting it up and figuring out what your food costs are and what you can charge for certain things in this specific location is all part of the equation.
totally.
Right.
And, one of the reasons why I thought I was going to be able to do it in this area was because I had done it here before.
Mhm.
And I do have a base in the community, and I have built relationships and somewhat of a reputation. The pandemic definitely threw food costs and some, supply chain stuff. I mean, when I first opened, there were just liquors that you just couldn't buy. Scotch wasn't available and stuff like that. And, things like canola oil that you're doing for your fryer. I remember it being $20 when I had the old restaurant, and then all of a sudden, you come back and it's 55.
Yeah.
And and you got to buy 3 or 4 of them at a time to fill up your fryer. So there were some adjustments that needed to be made. I think I maybe sold myself a little short and started with the lower price point than maybe I should have in the beginning. Just not realizing the differences from when I had originally had a restaurant into what the market would allow today, given food costs and everything else. But you make adjustments along the way, and you got to just figure out a way to make it work.
So, I mean, just from being a customer of yours and coming to the restaurant, I noticed one thing about you is that you're the front man, but you're very hands-on. I mean, you're everywhere in that business.
Yeah.
I mean, talk to me about your day to day. What are you doing?
So, I mean, everything that needs to be done, after this, I'm going to go to the plumbing store and go pick up a faucet that broke yesterday, and I'm going to install it myself.
Yeah.
I got a great plumber. Showing up costs $400. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and,
right.
you learn how to change a light switch and, change a toilet or whatever you got to do in order to make it run. So, I mean, and as far as like leadership and my staff is concerned, if they see that somebody's out and I have to go wash dishes for the day, or if the chef is sick and I got to jump behind the line and cook, whatever I have to do to make the business run is what I've come to do and need to do. I mean, even if, I may be greasing the wheels on the floor and busting tables and taking an order or making a drink, whatever it has to be, in order for you guys to enjoy yourselves when you're there is what's important to me.
How large is your staff at the moment, and do you need more?
Yes. Oh my God, it's been the hardest thing about this whole enterprise. I have about 18 people on staff right now. I think at the highest point we might have had, high 20s, 30 people. But you need to provide people with a schedule that they can, earn a living, but scaled down enough that you can have enough people that you can have coverage if you need it. So, I mean, like any other business, if somebody calls out sick, you need to have an option. So, at the moment, sometimes, I mean, I was literally waiting tables yesterday because, I had to.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what it takes as a business owner, especially a small business. I mean,
Yeah.
there's really no role that you aren't gonna fit.
Yeah, but I'm in the process of trying to figure out how I can do it more hands off. So maybe
Right.
in the future I can go open up another one and, have more of a higher view of it than, in the weeds with everybody working.
So Dave, how in the world do you survive in this business? I mean, the survival, tell me about the survival rate. I mean, people, out of 10 restaurants that open, how many close
So
within a
from
year?
what I understand, within a year is a pretty high percentage. And I've seen restaurants in town that have opened after me and closed since. I'm coming up on 3 years in September, and they say, an X number closes in the first year and X number closes in the second year. But if you make it into 3, that's usually a pretty good sign that you're going to be here for a little while. But that being said, I mean, food costs is going up, labor costs is going up, just all the ancillary things are going up. Everybody charges a delivery charge.
Yeah.
And, everybody's kind of adjusting. So, even with credit card fees, whatever it is, they got you coming and going. So, I mean, you really gotta
Love it, right?
Oh, it's the best. You gotta buckle down. You gotta get more people into the restaurant. You gotta give them reasons to come to the restaurant. It's like a lot of the people who come in that I talk to. I mean, you go to the grocery store, you spend $200, and I didn't buy anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like you have to be conscious that people are choosing to come to your place to spend their money. And you got to give them a reason to show up. So like Tuesdays, we do live music and half off bottles of wine. We occasionally do a comedy night, like a wine tasting dinner, but you got to give people a bang for their buck. And especially in this neighborhood, I mean, don't try giving anybody a small portion.
Yeah, yeah, they want what they pay for sure. There's no doubt. But I mean, you talk about some of those things that you do, and it's a big factor. So I've been to the comedy shows. I've been to New Year's Eve there. I mean, it's a fun place to be. It's a fun place to bring your business to, and I mean, just seeing you get up and do some comedy, which is great because I didn't know that. So I didn't know this about Dave, but Dave is a comedian, and he loved it.
I do. It's, one of those freest forms of expression that I've come to find. And there's nothing better than making like a whole room of people, especially that laugh.
Yeah.
I think in today's day and world that, we got to squeeze every bit of joy of every moment that we can. So, anytime that we can bring some levity to a situation and just, talk and laugh together, it's a good thing.
So Dave, how do you do that? How do you manage both ends of the scale here? Because I know when you were in New York, you learned from the best. And you were associated with the finest dining and the everybody's behaving themselves kind of dining. And that Mahopac or Mahopac probably doesn't strike me as a town that is going to put up with too much of that.
Yeah, so you got to walk a line. I mean, and it was a little much for me. I was working at Del Posto, and it was a white glove service. They had little stools for women to put their purses on. People spending thousands, tens of thousands of dollars on wine in a meal, and
I've never been to a place like that.
It's like you got the guy who, was running American Express, taking out all of his clients. I mean, and they got to like do it up. It was a little bit too much for me. I mean, they made you yawn with your mouth closed, that kind of thing. So, which is tough. If you've ever tried. Next time, give it a shot. But here, I want to walk a fine line. So we have white tablecloths. So, you want to be able to provide a higher elevated dining experience, but it needs to be laid back enough that somebody can come in with the ball cap and have a burger
and not take it off
and sit at the bar. You know what I mean? And it is a fine line to walk, but I think that one of the charms of our place is that we do that. It's like it's nice, but it's not hoity-toity, if you.
Yeah, and I would imagine, I mean, just knowing you and your personality, the employees that you have working for you, your core people, because there's always gonna be turnover, right? It's just
Yeah,
gonna happen.
yeah.
It's part of the business. What do you do to keep those people around, keep them having a good experience at work? I mean, I would imagine seeing you doing some stand-up comedy is probably enjoyable for
Totally,
them.
yeah, but, everybody has families to feed, and you want to make sure that they're making enough money that they can live. So I mean, one of the reasons that I do stay on the floor is so I don't have to have an extra person on, so that they divide the tips between less people, so they're making a little bit more money. I mean, you want people to work in a place that they don't mind coming to work to. So I try to be understanding and not too rigid, and create a positive work environment and support people in ways that they need help, besides money outside of work. You know what I mean? Ask me for anything but money. You know what I mean? I'll pay you for what you're earning. You earn your tips. But I just want to make sure that everybody's comfortable and taken care of, and just
Because you care,
happy.
you care, which is good.
So, Dave, forget that you're in the restaurant business
Go on.
and just consider yourself a businessman.
Okay.
Because that's the audience that Nick and I
Right.
are speaking to.
Yeah.
We're speaking to the Putnam County business community, and we're trying to be an advocate for them, and we're trying to help them understand regulation and things that we try to help them with their business. So
Yeah.
the reason you're here is we know you can give them some good advice. So please do.
So I mean, until Nick asked me to do the podcast, I was blissfully unaware of the council.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that the more that you guys get out there, the more that local business owners get an understanding of the resources that are available to them, I think would certainly be beneficial. I do try to stay involved in the community. Nick is a great example of this. So my cousin's was named after a dear friend of mine who passed away.
I like that.
And we have a golf outing every year. And when I asked Nick if he can sponsor a hole, or have a car for the hole-in-one contest, it's not even a question. So being able to support the community, so if there's ever any kind of fundraiser or anything like that, I always say yes. It's like, can I have a gift certificate? Yes, of course. You know what I mean? So I think really establishing yourself within the community and building real and lasting relationships in and outside of business has really led me to be successful. You do need to know the ins and outs of the law, and what is required of you as a business owner, from just payroll to food safety.
Would it be any worse or better to be in another state, or is New York State as good a place as there is to have a restaurant?
I mean, from what I understand, we're the most expensive place to live. But besides that, it seems to me that this local community, anyways, is into supporting local businesses, and not really the box stores and stuff like that. So I think that is certainly a benefit. And people are movers and shakers around here. Everybody's going. So I think it helps from just a marketing standpoint. Everybody's talking, everybody's going, everybody's doing all this different stuff, and I think that certainly is an advantage. And we have access to the highest quality ingredients. I mean, my guys go down to Hunts Point every day, and I get bread delivered from the Bronx every day, and in my opinion, you can't beat that.
Yeah.
I mean,
certain places you're just not getting it.
Yeah. I don't know how the bread is in Kansas, but I'm sure it's not what it is on Arthur Avenue.
I mean, and for you and the production that you run, it takes a lot of support. And I know that you have your sister working right alongside you, Alyssa, and she is a valuable piece.
Understatement of the century.
Yeah.
She's a lifesaver. I don't think I'd be able to do it without her. Or I'd be much more irritable, for sure.
Yeah.
She's in charge of scheduling and day-to-day operations and party planning and stuff like that. And just having someone you can trust to be there, to lean on, to support each other, And just to like shoot the shit and have a good time. Sorry.
No, you're good, man. You're good.
We don't have a little beeper that
You know, my sister's one of my best friends, and she's hilarious, and we enjoy working together. I mean, it can be, you know, we can butt heads at time, and you know, it can be tough, but I wouldn't change it for the world. And my parents are over the moon. You know, I mean, they love to come in, and you know, the customers have really gotten to know them, and they're just, you know, it's really just like a nice environment to be part of. It's lovely.
I mean, if you guys do butt heads, you don't show it.
No, we try to do it before the door.
There's a lizard there every day.
Just about, you know, we try to give each other alternating Sundays and stuff like that. But, you know, like I said, you know, finding people has been the hardest part. And, you know, she's scouring Indeed and ZipRecruiter and all these different things trying to find. And if you can, it's just like she's behind the bar, I'm out front, and it's like we got to do what we got to do.
Are you a fan of the TV show The Bear?
Very much so. But it's so funny because like people come in, they're just like, I really understand restaurants now. I watch The Bear. You know what I mean? So it's like,
that show, Nick?
I haven't seen it. It's on my list, but I haven't.
But many of the things that Dave's describing, the sister, I mean, it's all there.
It's in the show.
Yeah, no, I think that every restaurant across America, you can probably make a television show. You know what I mean? There's just a dynamic environment that just so many different things on a daily basis. You got your ups, your downs, you know, just everybody's got plenty of time to mess around sometimes, you know. It's like it's a cool environment.
How about the restaurant community here in Greater Manpack? Are you all friends? Are you all?
Just about. I mean, you know, and we try to support each other in a lot of ways. Donna from the Freight House Cafe just did a fundraiser for Women's Resource Center. And we, you know, we did some like mutual advertising, and we gave some discounts for particular items, and 10% of everything that we did for that is going towards the Women's Resource Center. So, you know, and I think that because restaurateurs have that commonality of knowing how difficult it is, we want to support each other. So, you know, there are people from all sorts of businesses, you know, from hair salons to car dealerships to restaurants, all just coming in to make sure that, you know, we know that we're circling the wagon. So yeah, for the most part, you know, I mean, we all have our favorite places in town to go, but you know, we all try to support each other, and there's enough to go around for everybody.
But Dave, you mentioned the possibility, once you get everything worked out, of you thinking about another location, but how exportable is what you do? I mean, you're bringing an enormous.
That's a great question. And I don't know. You know, if I want to keep the same concept, because I mean, it has been proven, and people like the menu, and like I know how to.
Because I was trying to get you over to Cold Spring, but
yeah. I mean, I would do something like that. You know, when the laws allow. I mean, you know, where my head is at for hopefully not too distant future, I would like to look into like a high-end cannabis infused like fine dining restaurant experience. So that's, you know, hopefully on the horizon, but you know, you got to wait for the places to catch up.
Yeah, I mean, listen, but that might not be too far away.
Yeah,
you know, something like that.
Totally.
Yeah,
you know, but again, you know, Putnam is different from Westchester, which is different from the city, and you know, and
Sure.
you know, personally, something that would concern me about something like that around here is, you know, it's like you have some edibles, and it's just like, well, how do you get home?
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
You know what I mean? And we serve
have
alcohol, and you know, we do make sure to, you know, not overserve people, and make sure that we know how people are getting home with just the alcohol.
Yeah.
But you know, it's one of those things when it comes to edibles, all of a sudden 45 minutes later, and you know,
I mean, that's something that you got to think about, and I wouldn't have even thought about something like that, but of course it's got to be in the back of your mind at all times.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's scary, you know. I mean, there are places that I know who have, you know, their insurance goes up, or they, you know, you can lose your liquor license if you don't take these things seriously. And you know, I mean, when it comes to alcohol safety, food safety, I mean, it's really the safety of the community that you have in mind. You know, you don't want somebody to get behind the wheel and hurt themselves or somebody else.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. I mean, and it's especially in a small community
Yeah,
because that's gonna explode,
yeah,
right? Something like that happens, and you can never have that in your name. It can put somebody out of business.
yeah.
There's no doubt
Yeah.
about it. So,
And I don't want to live with that.
no, of course not.
You know?
Of course not. Of course not. So, I mean, listen, you do a good job of making sure that your restaurant is run properly. You can see it as soon as you walk in. There's smiles on everybody's faces. I'll just pop in sometimes just to grab a drink. Sometimes we'll have a dinner, sit down dinner. Sometimes we'll go to the comedy show. I mean, it's there. It's all there. It really is.
Who are your heroes in the comedy world?
Ooh. I mean, I was always a fan of Mitch Hedberg.
I don't know the comics well enough to
Yeah,
be able to follow you, but
yeah. I mean,
or maybe styles. What kind of styles do you?
so I mean, I consider myself dry.
That's good.
I like to be somewhat topical, although, in today's day and age, especially in my restaurant specifically, I try not to ostracize any group of people. So you got to kind of just play it a little bit more low key than if I was down in the clubs in the city. But yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of funny people out there, and we do it with New York Comedy Club, so we have people who have been on late night and stuff coming up to do spots what they think to be in the middle of nowhere.
That's one of the funny things about when the comedians come to Dave's restaurant. I mean, they're pretty much all coming from the city.
Yeah.
They come from the city, and they literally think we're in Buffalo. I mean, they like Western New York, like it's a totally different world.
Yeah.
It's hysterical, and they all joke about it all night, and we love it.
No,
It's awesome.
And you got people who, if they say Mayapack, it's just like Mahopack. People take where we are with pride, and don't mess with it.
Did you know you wanted to do this when you were back at Yorktown High School?
Open a restaurant?
No, just be a showman.
Yeah, I mean, I was always kind of a clown of sorts. But I think it comes back to my father's side of the family. My grandmother, who was a waitress, my aunt, who was a waitress. We always just like hosting people.
Yeah.
So even if it was that,
hospitality's in the blood.
yeah. So I mean, even if it was in my studio apartment when I was living down in the East Village, we made sure that we had a little nosh before we went out to the restaurant. You know what I mean? And that's kind of my MO. I just want to make sure everybody's having a good time. So if that's just a day out with my friends on the golf course or working, I just want to make sure everybody I'm with is enjoying it.
And do you have any heroes in the restaurant business? Danny Meyer or
yeah. So I mean, I was working for a technology company, and we did work with Union Square Hospitality Group, and Danny Meyer is an impressive guy. If people don't know, he's the guy who created Shake Shack, Union Square Hospitality Group. And he's a monster in the industry. And how do you not look up to a guy like that? Anthony Bourdain, I would say, would be a big one for me, and just his approach to food and culture and what it means to people's lives. I think one of the coolest things that I get to do is make a day special for somebody. It's like if we have a birthday or an anniversary or an event or whatever it is, we did a 10-year-old birthday the other day. They bought out the restaurant. They had a DJ. I didn't have that for my 10-year-old birthday, but to be able to provide special days and memories and stuff for people and associate it with the food is all I need.
Yeah, I mean that I'm loving hearing that, because most people look at you and okay, he's a restaurant owner and he likes to put a good meal out, but knowing that it means something to you goes a long way in my eyes to say, hey, I want to go back to my cousins because of that.
And I think people do feel it. You know what I mean? And I do try to, when I'm in the building, I do try to touch every table, at least like, hey, how's it going? How's that drink? How's that appetizer? How's that entree? Whatever. And I think people do feel it. And I think that's one of the reasons why people do like to come back.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure having you, Dave.
Thank you. No, it's lovely.
I've not been to my cousin, but I hope to.
Please,
a little bit of a trip.
Where are you?
Well, I live over on the other side. I live in Phillipstown in Garrison, and
okay.
But no reason. I mean, I get over here. Jen and Nick have made it clear that I've been welcomed over here, so we'll do it.
Please.
One time. But thank you for coming in and helping other aspiring
My
restaurateurs
pleasure.
try to understand what goes into the business.
Yeah, and if there are any aspiring restaurateurs listening, think about it. Think out why you want to do it and what you're trying to do and what your concept is, because it's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, and listen, anybody that's out there right now listening, give my cousins a shot. Get to know Dave, get to know his staff. They're gonna treat you great. You're gonna have a great experience, no doubt in my mind.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks again, Dave.
Way to go.
My
Dave.
pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
That's terrific. You're excellent guest.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Voice of Putnam County Business. Let's hear a word from our sponsor. Thanks for tuning in to the Voice of Putnam County Business, brought to you by Putnam County Business Council. We are sponsored today by the Promenade on 6. Promenade on 6 is a small business hub that is set in an industrial, modern, contemporary space that is proudly showcasing all different kinds of small businesses. You have to check it out. Go to promenadeon6.com and you will get an idea of what Promenade on 6 is. And also brought to you by Park Ford. Park Ford is located right on Route 6 in Mayapack. If you are interested in purchasing a vehicle, you're going to reach out to Nick D'Andrea, 914-774-0036. But I can tell you that I have personally bought and sold, I think, about 5 vehicles with Park Ford. In fact, I have bought cars that are not Fords through them just for the fact that I don't want to deal with any other service department. These guys are world class, whether it comes to buying and selling vehicles or getting your vehicles serviced. Park Ford.